Legend has it that vegetables were better before. So we are going to go back in time and visit the hallowed French Academy of Agriculture. Where you can find the ghost of vegetables past. Between two old pamphlets on farming, we stumble across a hidden gem. The food composition table from 60 years ago. It shows the exact amount of vitamins and minerals that every fruit and vegetable contained at the time of writing. So we came up with a very simple idea to compare these old statistics with those of today. This information is no longer kept in old paper books. It is now kept on the internet. We discovered a little-known fact. Fruit and vegetables have lost some of their vitamins and minerals. Take green beans, for example. In 1960, they contained 65 milligrams of calcium for every 100 grams. In 2017, they contain no more than 48.5 milligrams. That's a quarter less calcium. The same thing for vitamin C, 19 milligrams at the time versus 13.6 today. One by one, we examined the 70 most consumed fruit and vegetables and compiled the results into this table. The results show a dramatic deterioration. In the space of 60 years, all 70 fruit and vegetables have lost an average of 16% of their calcium, 27% of their vitamin C, and almost less than half of their iron levels. For several years now, an American researcher has been warning us about this loss of nutrients.
So, best of luck. Thank you. Et merci à Monsieur Davis, que vous pouvez applaudir.
I'm here to tell you about an important problem that many people are not aware of, nutritional declines in foods.
Donald Davis is a biochemist. He has worked at the University of Austin, Texas. We showed him our comparative table.
This looks like similar to what we find in US data and UK data.
So what do you think?
In the United States, Donald Davis analyzed the development of 43 vegetables between 1950 and 1999.
I think that most of these declines are caused by increases in yield. When yields go up, there's less nutrients per weight of the food. A lot of agricultural scientists may not know about how big these effects are. This is kind of an embarrassing of they're always wanting to increase yield. If modern breeding was causing increases in flavor and increases in nutrients, I think they would talk about it a lot more.
The tomato is one of the fruits that has seen the largest drop in nutrients, a quarter of its calcium and more than half of its vitamins. In order to understand this decline, we must trace fruit and vegetables back to their origin. Before the fruit even grows, the seed determines everything. Tomato farmers choose their seeds from these brochures. They are published by manufacturers such as Syngenta, Vilmorin or Close. To attract farmers, they mention their size, shape, color, and, in particular, their productivity. But most importantly are the letters HF1, which signifies a first-generation hybrid. And that's how we get a hybrid. For example, let's take a plant that grows large but very pale tomatoes. We cross them with a plant whose tomatoes are red but too small. By combining these two varieties, we create what is called a hybrid, a plant that possesses both the genes of a large tomato and a bright red tomato. For 50 years, scientists from all over the world have been developing these hybridizations to create tomatoes that can withstand all sorts of bumps and bruises. You've heard of crash tests on cars. Here are crash test tomatoes. During the 1980s, these laboratory tomatoes flooded the market. But there is still one problem that no one has managed to work out. Tomatoes spoil very quickly. Until the day scientists invent the eternal tomato. This miraculous tomato has been created in Israel. For 70 years, this country has revolutionized the farming industry. It has managed to grow fruit and vegetables in the middle of the desert. We met one of the fathers of the modern tomato at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, the man who made this fruit practically immortal.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
Yes.
Hi. Good morning.
Chaim Rabinovich.
We go straight to the farm.
Yes.
At 79 years old, Professor Rabinovich continues to develop future hybrids.
This is a breeding greenhouse, so each plant is different. And I say, wow, this plant it looks stronger than this one, for instance, and definitely more than this one. We look for these differences in order to develop something which is better than the existing material.
The best tomatoes are those that are well adapted for commercial production. Because although the researcher and his assistant may well be university lecturers, they also work for private corporations. Their research is currently funded by French seed company Vilmorin.
It's owned by them. I cannot give it to anybody else. This is exclusive to them.
You're the only one that got into this greenhouse. Beside you, no one can get here.
They need to develop a tomato for southern European countries.
Here there is a big one, look. Vilmorin are looking to have a winning hybrid in the Balkan market, which have a fruit size around 300 grams.
Tomatoes as big as grapefruits that must grow on horizontal vines.
This is the cluster which the flower are organized.
Usually the cluster has 3 dimensions. The fruit grow in every possible direction. People like today what we call a fishbone cluster. From packing point of view, if you have 3 dimensions, it's very difficult to pack in a box. When you have a 2 dimension, you can put one on top of the other, and it's much easier.
To create this hybrid, they have to cross 2 plants by placing pollen from one plant onto the flower of another.
Here is the way you extract pollen.
You need to come to the open flower.
This is what we call artificial bee. Actually, you know what it is? It's an electric toothbrush. We just remove the brush and put a hook on top of it. You can see at the bottom, you can see yellow dust.
And in 2 days, I will come with the pollen, and I will make the pollination.
How many crossings you make for to have one hybrid at the end?
To make a commercial hybrid, probably 400.
400 like that?
400 every year. Sometimes it's coming only from the 3rd year, so you can go to huge numbers.
That is how, after thousands of cross-pollinations in the early 1990s, Chaim Rabinovich and his colleagues invented the eternal tomato. This innovation has transformed the world market.
Why you begin to work on the long shelf life?
Because of this waste of 40% of the yield. Before this mutation, the limit was 2-3 days, 4 days at the most. When we exported tomatoes to Europe, and we exported a lot of tomatoes, we used to fly it by airplanes. Because if it has to go by boat from Israel to Marseille, the tomato will be mushy. Nobody will touch it.
To extend its shelf life, the professor had to defy the laws of nature.
The purpose of this tomato is to disseminate the seed for next generation. So the moment the seeds are ripe, it will fall off the bush, bump into the ground, explode, and all this juice will run all over as far away from the mother plant as possible in order to conquer more territory. We don't want it. It's undesired trait for human beings. And here we have a mutation that seemingly can provide a solution.
Here is the Israeli researchers' idea. They have cross-pollinated a plant with regular tomatoes that decay within 3 days, with a plant carrying a natural genetic defect that prevents the ripening of the fruit. They have thus ended up with a long-lasting hybrid tomato that, once picked, will decay much slower. We led our own homegrown experiment. On one side, we have a hybrid fruit with a perfect appearance. On the other side, an heirloom tomato that has not undergone any hybridization, with its speckled yellow skin and other small imperfections. Now, all we have to do is wait. After 3 days, the two tomatoes still look completely fine. But after a week, the heirloom tomato is no longer fit for sale because of these little black marks. Within 2 weeks, it even starts to go moldy. And what about the hybrid? Unaffected. In 2 weeks, it has not changed at all. Except for one thing. The stem comes off. It was only after day 25 that the hybrid became unsellable, now with mold and softer skin. Without hybridization, it would have looked like this. Its shelf life has therefore gone from 3 days to almost 3 weeks. But just like any deal for eternal youth, there is a price to pay.
You can taste them.
Tasteless. The genes for inhibition, ripening inhibition, carry with them some negative traits. For instance, flavor. The taste deteriorates.
And there were less nutrients, but...
I don't know because we never measured it. Only later, in the 90s and the early 2000s, we started looking into the quality traits. I offered a project like that to many seed companies. I even gave it a name. I called it ACE tomato. Why ACE? Vitamin A, C, and E. And I said it will be much healthier tomato.
We don't have it in supermarkets, this variety.
The industries, they don't care.
These manufacturers that Haim Rabinovich refers to are big names in the seed industry, such as the business Hazera, which has earned millions thanks to the long-life tomato. In 2003, this Israeli company was bought out by Limagrin, a multinational corporation with a turnover of over $2.5 billion. After acquiring Hazera, the company became the world's second biggest producer of tomato seeds. Hazera test out their new varieties in the Negev desert out in the middle of nowhere. Yaron Giras is global head of the tomato department. Yael Rosenfeld is head of the communications department.
This is for you, and then you put those two. This is our protocol for sanitation.
The The 120 varieties in this demonstration greenhouse are advertised right down to their stem.
I'm going to show you, for example, tomatoes that we call it lamia. This is a very famous tomato in Turkey today. It's the green part of the tomatoes. It's like a mustache, you know?
There is a special gene for this mustache?
Yes. So you see very, very nice color, very firm tomato. It's coming from the long shelf life family also.
You mean it has a long shelf life?
Genes, yeah.
Genes?
Inside,
What
yeah.
is the percentage of all your variety that has long shelf life?
I didn't calculate, but I assume today around 50-50.
Long shelf life has a problem for the taste.
Long shelf life, for a long time, we saw that it was influenced to reduce the taste of the tomato. And now we are going back and try to increase the taste again of the tomato.
And Yaron Giras wants to prove it to us. In his opinion, the long life gene doesn't necessarily mean a lack of flavor.
You like tomato?
Yeah.
Not everybody likes tomatoes, you know?
Yes, I like tomato, but it's hard to find a good tomato right now, nowadays.
Okay. Taste? Okay.
Like a little bit
We said
acid,
not all the tomato need to have a taste, because if you add olive oil and salt, you don't need taste. I tell you, I know what is tomato. This is okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
There is a worse.
but for the market and for what they want, this is okay.
I'm going to show you some tomatoes that you said, wow. And I want you to taste this special Maggi and to tell me if you feel the difference.
תביא לי איתו. שנראה מה היא טוענת.
לא אוהב.
לא טעים?
לא יודע.
לא, כי אני לא יודעת אם היא לא נראית מגי אמיתית עוד. היא לא נראית מצ'ור.
C'est pas flagrant? What do you think?
A different taste. It's not good as I want it to be,
Yeah.
because it's starting. The cultivation just start.
Yes.
You see, you are the same people.
We will come back to the taste, but what about the nutrients?
Very little gel. What we're looking more and more is to have a good color, a good firmness, and a good taste.
And
The
nutrients in tomato are still, it's a small player in the market. For cooking in Italy, for cooking.
Is the hybridization of tomatoes one of the reasons for the loss of nutrients? In the south of France, in Bellegarde-du-Razès, Jean-Luc Borrol is one of the last artisan seed sellers in the country. Using his own tomatoes, he produces non-hybrid seeds. These are heirloom seeds.
On va finir d'extraire les semences. Donc les graines, elles vont être au fond, elles vont pouvoir couler, et les peaux vont rester flotter au-dessus. Cette technique-là de faire ses propres semences, tout le monde le faisait avant, parce que chaque agriculteur savait que de la semence dépendaient les futures récoltes. Donc c'était vraiment quelque chose que chaque agriculteur faisait avec soin, simplement parce que, ne serait-ce que pour pouvoir manger, il fallait vraiment... le plus important, c'est la semence. Et maintenant, ils ne le font plus, parce qu'il y a des grandes entreprises qui le font pour eux.
Donc c'est un geste devenu un peu rare.
Ouais, presque hérétique.
In his greenhouse, Jean-Luc Borrol only grows farmers' varieties. 100% natural farming.
Effectivement, c'est un peu le bazar. Après, ça donne une impression de bazar parce que j'ai une toute petite surface et que pour rentabiliser cette petite surface, je serre beaucoup les tomates. Je travaille dans la terre, ce qui fait que moi, je mets aucun produit chimique. Je mets aucun produit d'ailleurs. Dans la serre, là, il doit y avoir à peu près une vingtaine de variétés. de tomates.
Qu'est-ce qu'elles ont en commun, toutes ces tomates?
C'est des variétés qui ne sont pas hybrides. Donc ça veut dire qu'il n'y a pas eu les croisements.
Do these farmers' varieties contain more nutrients than hybrids? We are going to analyze them. On one side, we have Jean-Luc's tomatoes. On the other, a hybrid with a similar appearance bought from the supermarket. The very same day, we sent them to an accredited laboratory to measure their nutrient levels. Three weeks later, the results arrive. The hybrid tomato contains a significantly lower level of the 5 nutrients analyzed. It contains 63% less calcium, 29% less magnesium, and 72% less vitamin C. The levels of lycopene and polyphenols, 2 antioxidants that help fight cardiovascular diseases, are 2 times lower in the hybrid than in the farmer's variety tomato. We then showed these analyses to Donald Davis, a specialist in nutrient loss.
Congratulations.
Okay.
How's the taste? Is the taste different?
Of course.
Yeah.
The heirloom one was very, very good. I ate it like candy. But the hybrid was tasteless, yes, of course.
It's consistent with the idea that there is a relationship between taste and nutrient content. This was published by Professor Clay at the University of Florida, and he made the observation in this paper that many of the flavor components of tomatoes are derived from human nutrients. When you eat a tomato that has good flavor, that means that it probably also had good amounts of the nutrients that were used to make that flavor.
It's a consequence of hybridization?
It's consistent with all of the other evidence. Breeders select for yield, but they're also looking for other economic traits. And in the process of making that change, they also caused a change in the chemistry of the tomato.
Hybrid varieties are less nutritious. So what does Le Magrin, owner of Hazera and the world's second largest tomato seed producer, think of this?
Bonjour madame, excusez-moi.
Bonjour, je vous en prie. Non, merci. Non, non, il n'y a pas de...
Jean-Christophe Gouache is one of the company's board members.
Vous êtes un des très hauts responsables de l'Imagrin, qui est un des leaders mondiaux du marché de la semence. Est-ce que vous avez mesuré les nutriments dans vos tomates ?
C'est important la question que vous posez, parce que il faut regarder c'est quoi qu'est-ce qui fait la qualité nutritionnelle d'une tomate, ou la composition sur les éléments que vous avez dit. Ce sont essentiellement les conditions de culture, beaucoup plus que la variété.
Est-ce que vous êtes en train de me dire que c'est un problème qui ne nous concerne pas ?
Oh, jamais de la vie. La qualité nutritionnelle des produits issus des variétés que nous commercialisons est un sujet qui nous intéresse.
En Israël, justement, on a rencontré le professeur Rabinovitch.
Oui.
Vous le connaissez ?
Absolument.
Vous savez très bien que c'est lui qui a inventé la tomate longue durée, donc c'est une tomate qui dure 3 semaines.
Oui.
Il nous a expliqué que le gène de longue durée bloque en partie la maturation du fruit et donc, du coup, le développement des nutriments.
Mais on est ambitieux. Il va falloir qu'on soit capable... Les consommateurs nous demandent des tomates qui ont du goût et des caractéristiques de conservation qui sont également attendues par le consommateur et par le maraîcher et par l'ensemble de la chaîne de valeur.
Mais alors justement, on se dit que si demain, dans les supermarchés, il y avait un scanner à nutriments, et donc si en tant que consommateur, moi, je pouvais passer mes tomates au scanner et savoir immédiatement s'il y avait des nutriments ou pas dedans, vous, en tant que producteur de semences, vous diriez peut-être, si le consommateur peut le savoir, peut-être qu'il faut qu'on s'en occupe.
L'important, c'est de manger plus de légumes pour nos concitoyens, en termes d'équilibre alimentaire. Maintenant, s'il y a un jour, je ne sais pas quelle est la science-fiction qui fera que le consommateur pourra avoir un scanner à nutriments.
C'est en développement, en fait, ça va exister bientôt. Mais là, du coup, s'il y avait ça, peut-être que vous vous en occuperiez plus.
Je vais rester cohérent avec ce que je vous ai dit. Je pense que les producteurs de tomates qui ont le plus gros impact sur la composition des tomates auraient à s'en occuper au premier chef et plus rapidement que nous, parce que c'est eux qui ont l'impact le plus important.
The hybrids offer another great advantage for seed suppliers. Their seeds are single-use. If you plant the seed of a hybrid plant, the genes mix, and when the plant grows, it's the luck of the draw. The tomatoes could be small, striped, or misshapen. This is why farmers must buy more seeds every year. A profitable market, given that the manufacturers sell these tomato seeds at a very high price, like Limagrin in Israel.
How much is 1 kilo of seeds of this kind of tomato?
This kind of tomato today can reach the 400,000 euro.
What?
For kilogram of seeds.
What?
400,000 euro or more. Yes, you can buy a house with this.
I've heard that the tomato seeds is the more capital gain of all the seeds.
Yes. Yeah. The margin, or our margin is the highest that we can get in tomato.
Why?
Because it's expensive seeds. There is a lot of demands, so it's a good business for us. If it's not, we are not here.
The small yellow tomato, the most expensive variety in the greenhouse, costs $450,000 for every kilo of seeds. Even so, for a basic tomato, it is $67,000, double the price of gold.
This is handwork. They need a lot of labor to make seeds.
And where do you produce the seeds, the tomatoes?
Like we told you today, in 22 different countries today, all over the world.
And like which kind of country?
Like Israel, like in Thailand, like in Chile, in Spain, in India, in many places.
Seeds sold for the price of gold and produced by hand in countries with cheap labor. Welcome to the era of seed globalization. The tomato trail has led us to India. It was this report with a young girl on the front cover that prompted us to take the flight. Soiled Seeds, commissioned in 2015 by ICN, a Dutch NGO. In the seed sector, 16% of workers that produce vegetable seeds are children under the age of 14 years. These seeds are produced in the state of Karnataka, in remote villages that are amongst the poorest in the whole country. Here, the climate is mild for vegetables. Every year, 160,000 kilos of tomato seeds are produced to then be exported. The 5 biggest multinational seed companies can be found here on this plain: BASF, DuPont, Bayer Monsanto, Syngenta, and Limagrin. We are going to travel across it, together with the Hindu god Ganesh and one of the researchers from this NGO that works against child labor. In India, working before the age of 14 is illegal. Ravi Raj roams the area to count the children in the fields.
ನಾವು ದೂರಿಂದನೇ ನೋಡಿದಾಗೆ ಅವ್ರ ಹೆಡ್ ಕೌಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ತೀವಿ ಅಟ್ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ದೂರಿಂದನೇ ನಾವು ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅವರು ಸ್ಮಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ ದೊಡ್ಡದಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ರೈಟ್ ಸೈಡ್ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಕಲ್ಲಂಗಡಿ ಬೀಜನ ತೆಗಿತಾ ಇದ್ರು.
Along with our translator, we approached the children. These young girls have been hollowing out watermelons for hours in order to remove the seeds. It is 86 degrees Fahrenheit in the shade. These girls have been recruited by a farmer who works for an Indian seed company.
ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಆದರೆ ಸುಮಾರು ಒಂದು 50 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಕೊಡ್ಬೋದು ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ.
According to Ravi in Karnataka, the tomato hybrid industry is one of the largest employers of child labor. It's the end of the season. The fields are almost deserted, but a little further we notice some figures through the screens of this greenhouse. This farm is a subcontractor of the Swiss multinational Syngenta. Around 10 workers prune the tomato plants. A girl who is smaller than the others stares at us. The young girl on the left quietly tells her to bend down.
ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ತನಕ ಓದಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ನೀವು ಶಾಲೆಗೆ ಹೋಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಒಟ್ಪರಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಶಾಲೆಗೆ ಹೋಗೋದು? ಎಷ್ಟು ವಯಸ್ಸು ನಿಮಗೆ? 17. ನಿಮಗೆ?
ನಮಗೆ 15.
ಯಾಕೆ ಶಾಲೆಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಮಾಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ?
ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಶಾಲೆ ಇಲ್ರಿ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಲ್ಲ. 5ನೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ವರೆಗೂ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಐತ್ರಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ.
ನೀವು ಎಷ್ಟು ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಇದು?
ನಾವು ಈಗ 3 ವರ್ಷ ಆತ್ರಿ ಬರಕ.
ಹಾಂ ಹಾಂ
3 ವರ್ಷ ಆತ್ರಿ ನಾವು ಬರಕ್ಕೆ.
ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಕಂಪನಿ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಇದು ಒಂದೇ ಕಂಪನಿ?
ಇದು ಒಂದೇ ರೀ.
ಎಷ್ಟು ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ನೀವು ತೋಟದಲ್ಲಿ?
5ನೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಂದ ಬಿಟ್ಟಾಕಿ ಯಾಕೆ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದೆ.
Is this young lady 17 years old? Our translator finds this hard to believe.
I don't think she is 17. Looking at her, probably she is much younger than 17, which is very much apparent that she has been trying to hide her age.
In Karnataka, 800 farms have a contract with Syngenta. It's the largest foreign contracting party. Naturally, we asked the Swiss multinational its thoughts on child labor. In response, an empty rhetoric of principles. Syngenta conforms to all labor laws. Syngenta's equitable work policy promotes decent working conditions and also tackles the problem of child labor. Why are children hired by farmers that work for these big seed companies? Dr. Davuluri Ventakeswalu, author of the report Soiled Seeds, is one of the main experts on child labor in India. For 15 years, this independent research worker has been investigating the production sector of hybrid seeds.
The hybridization activity is very, very delicate. It requires a lot of skills. The children are preferred because they can do this repetitive activities very faster than adults. And also they are more obedient, we can say. 2 children can do the work of 3 adults. That is the kind of calculation farmers have.
According to this researcher, farmers cut wages for one simple reason: the low prices set by the multinationals.
The farmers are struggling actually to have a good profit margin if they have to hire labor and pay good remuneration to the workers. The margin will be very nominal, or sometimes there won't be any margin for the farmers.
Davuluri Venkateswalu's battle has begun to pay off. The proportion of children working in the seed industry under the age of 14 has been reduced from 16 to 10%. But another part of the population is still being exploited. Traveling through Karnataka, we made another discovery. In the tomato seed fields, we only saw women. We found out why during our visit to Chaman Gauda Doda Goda's farm.
Tomato for who?
HM class, 3 variety only.
In India, Limagrin operates under the name HM Clause. The French seed company is in contract with 600 farmers in the region.
ಕ್ರಾಸಿಂಗ್ ರನ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಈಗ.
Bent over under the blazing sun, these women remove the pollen from flowers with tweezers for 8 hours a day.
ಈಗ ಬರೀ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮಹಿಳೆಯರು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ, ಅದ್ಯಾಕೆ ಗಂಡಸರಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ?
ಅವ್ರ ಗಂಡು ಮಕ್ಳು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕಡಿ ಹೊರಿ ಹೊರ್ತಾರ, ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರ, ಬೀಳ್ಸಂದ್ರೆ ಬೀಳಿಸ್ತಾರೆ. ಆಮ್ಯಾಗ ಸಿಗಂಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಕೂಲಿ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ರೀ, 300 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಕೂಲಿ ಗಂಡು ಮಕ್ಳಿಗೆ ಆದ್ರೆ. ಇವ್ರಿಗೆ ಆದ್ರೆ 200 ರೂಪಾಯಿ.
Their heads buried in pollen and fertilizers for just $2.80 a day. It is not much, and what's more, it is illegal. In India, employers must comply with the minimum wage. It is 330 rupees in the agricultural industry, the equivalent of $4.80 a day. These women therefore earn 40% less than the legal minimum wage.
ಯಾಕೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅಷ್ಟು ದೂರದಿಂದ ಬಂದು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ?
ನಮ್ಮ ಕಡೆಗೆಲ್ಲ ಈ ಕೆಲಸ ಇಲ್ರಿ. ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಗದ್ದು ಭತ್ತ ಕೊಯ್ಯೋದು, ಗೊಂಜಾಳ ಮುರಿಯೋದ್ರಿ. ಮತ್ತು ಅವನ್ ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಕೆಲಸ ಇಲ್ರಿ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಈಗ ಕೆಲಸ ಇಲ್ರಿ.
ಅಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರ ಸೊಂಟ ನಾವು ಗಂಡು ಇವ್ರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಬರೀ ವೇಟ್ ಹತ್ತೇನೆ, ನಿಮಗೇನು ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ?
ಕಣ್ಣಿಗೆ ಕಣ್ಣು ನೋವು ಬರ್ತೈತ್ರಿ. ಇಷ್ಟಿಷ್ಟು ನೋಡಿ ಸುಲುದು ಸೊಂಟ ನೋವು ಬರ್ತೈತಿ.
ಐತ್ರಿ, ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳ್ದಂಗೆ ನೋವುಗಳು ಐತಿ. ಮತ್ತು ಈಗ ನಮಗೂ ಉಳಿಬೇಕಲ್ರಿ.
ಕಂಪ್ನಿಯವ್ರ 1 kg ಬೀಜಕ್ಕೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ರೊಕ್ಕ ಕೊಡಲ್ಲ ಸರ, 8000 rupees ಪರ್ kg. ನಮ್ಮ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಸರ 10,000 ರೂಪಾಯಿ kg ಆದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಕೊಡೋ ಸಂಬಳಕ್ಕೆ, ಅವ್ರು ಕೇಳಿದ ಸಂಬಳಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಕೊಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಗಿಡ್ದ ಸರ್.
These farmers say they are forced to break the law because they need another $30 per kilo. Yet in Europe, Limagrin sells a kilo of seeds for an average of $67,000. Are the local Limagrin managers aware of these illegal practices? The following day, we decided to take a little visit to the Indian branch of HM Claws with a hidden camera. We got off to a bad start. They stopped us before we even got close to the building.
Seeds company.
You are looking for seeds company?
Yes, that's it.
What's the purpose?
What?
Purpose.
We make a documentary about seeds in Karnataka.
Europe means which country particularly?
France.
Oh, okay. 1 minute.
Apparently, being French, like Limagrin, has its benefits. We are invited to enter the staff office
Okay, Limagrin.
to speak directly with the supervisor.
Okay.
The man is on the phone with head office.
Because we have very strict information, instruction from head office not to allow any people.
They are banned from speaking to us, but do not underestimate the famous Indian hospitality.
Shall I have lunch first?
Lunch? Maybe on y va, non? Manger un peu. Ok, on va voir.
We go inside the storage facility where the seeds produced by the Indian farmers are dried before being exported.
Oh, thank you.
The site managers admit they are fully aware that the farmers do not abide by the minimum wage of $4.80 a day.
What is the salary for one worker? 200 rupees. Okay, for 8 hours. Okay. Yeah, because some farmers say they have no...
More shocking information. According to this executive, the firm even violates this law with its own employees.
How much are paid in HM Close Farm?
We pay around 285 rupees.
According to the supervisor, the business has a knack for hiding the price of seeds in Europe from the farmers.
What are the name of a tomato?
It is very secret. We put numbers. Production people, we should not know the names.
Why?
Suppose you come to know that this product is very popular and is produced by this name.
So what is Limagrin doing to combat these illicit practices?
Ouais. Alors, est-ce que vous connaissez le rapport qui s'appelle Soiled Seeds? Il est ici.
Oui.
Ouais, il a donc été rédigé en 2015 sur le travail des enfants et l'exploitation des femmes. Et alors ici, vous allez voir, page 6, donc je vous le montre là, la part des enfants de moins de 14 ans varie entre 10,5 et 16,3%, donc de tous les gens qui travaillent, notamment dans les fermes de Limagrin.
La première chose que je souhaite vous dire, affirmer haut et fort, il n'y a pas de travail des enfants sur les sites de Limagrin.
Mais chez vos sous-traitants, qui travaillent pour Limagrin en Inde, est-ce que vous nous affirmez qu'il n'y a pas de travail d'enfants?
Nous sommes passés de ces 10 à 15%, et ce n'est pas parfait, à moins de 1%. Et donc toutes les mesures ont été prises.
Lesquelles?
Des mesures contractuelles, d'interdiction du travail des enfants, tout un travail de formation et d'éducation, de sensibilisation, et ensuite allant jusqu'à des sanctions pour être certain, autant que faire se peut, que le travail des enfants n'existe pas.
Autant que faire se peut.
Le travail des enfants, Madame Lucet, c'est trop sérieux ce sujet-là.
Non, mais c'est très sérieux, c'est pour ça qu'on vous pose des questions.
Une tolérance zéro, Madame Lucet. Est-ce que nous pouvons, dans un territoire comme l'Inde, avoir toutes les certitudes? Probablement non. Mais la détermination, elle est sans faille, Madame Lucet.
Dans les fermes qui travaillent pour vous, on a vu que les femmes sont toutes payées en dessous du minimum légal, c'est-à-dire 2,50 € par jour contre 4,25 € le salaire minimum. Un commentaire?
Je ne peux pas être d'accord avec ce commentaire. Limagrin,
avec ce chiffre?
Absolument.
Mais on l'a vu sur le terrain.
Je m'inscris en faux sur cette réalité. Maintenant, je suis certain de notre engagement, Madame Lucet.
Parce que moi, je vais vous dire autre chose. Vous vous dites, mais les salariés de Limagrin, ils sont payés au salaire légal en Inde. Minimum légal, je vous le rappelle, 4,25 € par jour en Inde, d'accord? Les salariés de Limagrin, ils sont payés 3,60 €. Et ça nous a été confirmé par un responsable de Limagrin.
Les salariés de Limagrin, partout où nous opérons, sont payés au minimum légal ou au-dessus du minimum légal.
Vous êtes allé en Inde dernièrement?
Je suis allé en Inde plusieurs fois.
Mais dernièrement?
Non, c'est pas dans mes fonctions aujourd'hui d'aller en Inde.
Parce que nous, on y allait dernièrement et c'est les chiffres sur le terrain pour le coup.
La réalité de terrain, Madame Lucet, nous la connaissons. Je m'inscris en faux sur cette affirmation.
Nowadays, it's almost impossible to find seeds that have not been hybridized or cloned by the industry. Corn, vegetables, rice, wheat, sunflowers, the same modern and uniform plants are being imposed all over the world. As a result, 2/3 of all seeds sold in the world now belong to 4 multinationals: Bayer Monsanto, Dow-Dupont, Syngenta, and Limagrin. This privatization of nature is destroying biodiversity. In 2009, a man launched a global appeal to the United Nations. At the time, Olivier Descouter was a United Nations Special Rapporteur on the right to food.
75% of agrobiodiversity has been lost as a result of the pressure towards the adoption of uniform improved variety.
We are meeting him at his home in Brussels. Despite his calm demeanor,
c'est le bon sens agronomique, quoi.
The former UN Special Rapporteur is frustrated that his warnings are falling on deaf ears.
C'est un chiffre alarmant, c'est 75% de plantes qu'on a perdues, parce que la biodiversité n'est pas juste un luxe de botanistes, c'est essentiel à la sécurité alimentaire mondiale. Pourquoi? Parce qu'on ne peut pas anticiper à l'avenir le type d'insectes ravageurs qui va se développer, le type de maladie qui peut affecter les plantes, les impacts qu'auront les ruptures climatiques. On a besoin de ce réservoir de solutions pour l'avenir pour faire face à ces menaces que, par définition, l'on ne peut pas entièrement anticiper.
Fragile plants is not such a bad thing for the large seed companies, because out of these 4 multinationals that dominate the world seed market, 3 are pesticide manufacturers: Bayer Monsanto, Dow-Dupont and Syngenta.
La grande difficulté face à laquelle nous sommes, c'est que les agriculteurs reçoivent une sorte de package. On leur dit, si vous achetez ces semences, ça marche mieux avec ces pesticides, ou ça ne marche qu'avec ces pesticides, et ça marche mieux avec ces engrais. Et donc, on va développer des semences réactives aux intrants.
Seeds are a perfect Trojan horse for these chemical products. As a result, 3 million tons of pesticides are sold annually worldwide.
À terme, on va manger la même chose de Dakar à Miami, de Paris à Bangkok. En gros, c'est ça le monde de demain vu par les semenciers.
Pendant des millénaires, l'on avait des semences en quantité, en variété très grande, et ces semences étaient améliorées au fil des récoltes, année après année, par les paysans, par des méthodes qu'on pourrait qualifier aujourd'hui d'artisanales. Progressivement, ce travail de sélection et de reproduction a été fait par des firmes spécialisées qui, du coup, ont mis sur le marché des semences permettant de produire des volumes importants de produits agricoles génétiquement identiques. La diffusion à l'échelle mondiale des semences industrielles dont les droits sont détenus par une poignée de grandes firmes transnationales signifie que pour beaucoup de petits paysans des pays en développement, l'agriculture ne sera tout simplement plus viable. Et donc on va assister à une progressive destruction de l'agriculture paysanne à l'échelle mondiale.
Today, across the world, citizens and farmers alike are revolting against this programmed disappearance. They demand free seeds, seeds that do not belong to the giants of the agrochemical industry. In France, a number of people are organizing the resistance. In the southwest of the country, in the depth of a valley, you will find the hideout of Cocopelli. Ananda Guyer runs this non-profit organization. They are trying to protect traditional and forgotten vegetable varieties. Their collection includes 2,400 vegetables that are now rare, such as this beige-colored cucumber Puna Kera or orange Swiss chard.
En fait, il y a une diversité de couleurs complètement incroyable et en fait, la standardisation de l'agriculture, elle a vraiment fait le syndrome de l'entonnoir sur les espèces et les côtes de blette, en l'occurrence, pour à peu près tout le monde, une côte de blette, c'est soit vert, soit blanc, généralement blanc à large carde, etc. Alors qu'il y a une diversité complètement incroyable de côtes de blette et qui peuvent donner des couleurs de l'arc-en-ciel comme ça, qu'on n'a pas du tout l'habitude de voir.
To help with the preservation of these varieties, Cocopelli has launched the scheme Seeds Without Frontiers.
C'est de là que tous les colis pour les campagnes de solidarité comme Semences sans frontières sont expédiés. Donc on envoie tous les ans des centaines de colis partout sur la planète avec des petites fiches techniques. Ça, c'est des retours en fait de plein de projets qu'on a soutenus.
Quel pays?
Oula, mais là, il y a quasiment tous les pays. On en a en Inde, on en a en Amérique centrale, en Amérique du Sud, un peu partout en Asie aussi. Enfin, vraiment, en fait, ces populations ont été totalement asservies par les multinationales de l'agrochimie, de l'agroalimentaire. Et du coup, ils perdent toute leur variété hyper vite, des fois en l'espace d'1 ou 2 saisons. Et donc nous, ce qu'on fait, mais on est tout petit face à ces multinationales, donc c'est une action assez modeste, mais qui porte quand même ses fruits. La preuve ici, avec tous ces retours, on ramène ces variétés-là et surtout on ramène le savoir avec, modestement encore. On n'a pas la prétention d'avoir la science infuse, mais en tout cas on essaye de les aider à retrouver cette autonomie alimentaire via la reproduction de semences.
By conserving these endangered seeds, we are taking back the choice to plant or eat non-standardized fruit and vegetables, which are the best produce for both our planet and our health. But perhaps most importantly, we will liberate the vibrant common good of humanity.